It's I.A.G Farms. It's all about God. Yeah, we just walking down this morning. It's a Sunday morning, early Sunday morning. We don't have too much going on today. Just walking down, got some fish food here. Walking down to feed our pet fish in the pond. Our pond has turned into like an aquarium. The fish follow us around.
Yes, they come up when we're going to the pond. They come up like, hey, jump in the spot.
Yeah, they just hover in the spot, you know, where we feed them at. And then we can walk around and they literally just follow us around. I'm talking about the brim, the big catfish and everything.
Well, the catfish don't follow me. They don't trust anybody but him. When he comes out, then the big fish come out. But, you know, the little fish, they'll come up for anybody.
Yeah, one of my spiritual fathers, Papa Harold, he told me when I go, because he had a catfish pond as well on his land, and he told me when I feed the fish to like talk to him and shake the, you know, fish feeder. And he said eventually, you know, they'll learn my voice and hear the fish feeder and come.
And so, it's true.
Yeah, it's true.
It's true.
I didn't believe it, but it's definitely true. Yeah, they just come up like a herd of pigs, you know.
They do.
Yeah.
Like the pigs.
Yeah, for real.
Right now.
Yeah. I'm shaking this bucket. One of the pigs liable to break out. For real. He calling us.
What? We're here.
Yeah, for real.
Wait, you missed us. You went past us. Here I come. And then just bust out.
Yep. Yeah, it's been a pretty relaxing morning so far. We had coffee and donuts this morning for breakfast. And we're going, yeah, I was just going to tell him about the turtle. Come on, tell him about the turtle, Tim. Now, are you talking to me or are you talking to the camera? You got to come over here.
Come over here with the donut still on your face.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead and tell them what happened.
All of a sudden, we just came out. We were just looking and taking our walk, and then we saw a turtle just walking towards the woods.
Yeah, they started yelling, a turtle, a turtle, a turtle. And we came out and it was a big old turtle just walking through the middle of the field, going towards the woods. Yeah. That was fun, wasn't it, boys?
Yep.
Yeah. Did y'all enjoy y'all's donuts this morning?
Yep.
They had donuts and milk, so a milk slushy. Milkshake. Yeah.
No.
What does they know with all the donut, chocolate donuts?
Milk mustache.
These are walkie-talkies.
Turn it on, let's see if it's on. Because somebody got on us one time about it. They didn't have batteries. Y'all need to get them boys some toys and some batteries.
We were on the way that day to get them batteries.
Push the button, let's hear it. Push the call button. So they do have batteries now, y'all. We're not depriving our kids.
I don't know how long those batteries will, you know.
Last.
But they have it. Actually, we did get even more batteries because someone gave us some flashlights.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Becky gave us flashlights and more batteries. So
that's
they have lots more batteries.
And Noah got in trouble, so Noah doesn't have his walkie-talkie because he broke into the battery pack and lost some of the batteries. Because he wanted to put the batteries in the walkie-talkie himself.
Yeah, I told him, you know, to wait. And I was cleaning up. We're going to eat lunch. And then I cleaned up after lunch. And he crawled on the side-by-side.
Opened the battery pack. Lost some batteries.
Bag,
and ran away and left it all spurred out everywhere.
He knows not to do that. He knows he's not supposed to get on the side-by-side. So he got in a lot of trouble for that. So no walkie-talkie for him.
Yeah.
It's something out here like trying to keep your kids alive.
And then he also, after he did that, he decided to have homeschool letters drawn on my truck. So he drew a letter A on my truck. And then got caught the next day trying to draw another letter on my truck. And then got caught the next day trying to do something with my tires. So Noah's on punishment right now. He can't have any walkie-talkies because he's been doing bad stuff.
It's a good letter A though, but not on the truck.
It look like Titus want to show y'all something. Let me turn y'all around so he can show y'all what he wants to show you. What you got for us, Titus?
Look, it's those honeysuckles.
Honeysuckles? Titus want to show y'all the honeysuckles. So it is springtime. Now what do y'all do with the honeysuckles?
We drink out of them.
Drink the little drip of water?
Drip of honey.
Yeah, it does kind of taste a little sweet.
Nectar.
I love it. Yeah, nectar, huh?
Nectar from the plant.
Yeah, it probably has some type of nutrition
I'm
in
sure it does. It's probably similar to honey or something like that.
Yeah.
We'll have to look it up. I'm sure it has health benefits because it's a natural thing. You know, you're only getting a little bit of it, but
yeah. All right, y'all, let's get on down to this pond and feed these fish. And what we're gonna do is today, by popular demand, Noah went on here. I hadn't even told him to ride yet. I was gonna record y'all going down, but y'all went without me telling you. It's all right. I was gonna record y'all record Noah riding down the driveway and let y'all see him because he's only just turned 4 and he's able to ride a bike with no training wheels and up and down hills beside the pond and all this stuff. But what I was about to say was by popular demand, today we're going to talk to you about, on this Walk and Talk, we're going to talk to you about what, Megan?
How we met.
How we met. So you all have asked.
Everyone has been asking.
So we're going to tell you, but we'll wait until after we feed the fish and we'll kind of get settled. And then we'll kind of either sit down or just stand around and kind of talk to you about how we met. So let's head on down to the pond and get these fish fed. Yeah, the boys, they love this driveway and we all love it. Eventually, we already have our rocks ordered. The last time our dump truck guy went down to the rock quarry, they didn't have the big rock that we wanted. They had the small rock with the red clay gravel, but we put that on the driveway before, and the rain just kind of washes it off. You can see it's kind of a little bit of rock still there, but that's just not enough, for this driveway. So we're waiting on big rock. See you, Noah. Keep going.
He's like, you're on my way.
Yeah.
He's trying to turn.
Noah's doing very well on his bike. The boys taught him how to ride it. They all taught each other. Tim Jr. said Jesus taught him how to ride because we didn't teach Tim Jr. how to ride without training wheels. And so all of a sudden one day he just popped up riding his bike without training wheels.
First time riding like a bike. You know, he hopped on the bike and just rode without training wheels.
I couldn't ride it, and I said, yes, I can.
Yeah, because we thought that he couldn't ride. It was like, you can't ride a bike without training wheels.
He's never been on a bike without training wheels.
And then he got on to start riding. And then what did you tell us? Who taught you?
Jesus.
Yep. And then so Tim Jr. taught Titus, and then Titus and Tim Jr. taught Noah. And so Tim Jr. was 5, right?
Yep.
When you learn how to ride without training wheels. Titus was 4.
Yep.
When Tim Jr. taught him, and Noah was 3. So,
now he's 4.
Now he's 4. Yep. I love it. That's right, Noah. All right, y'all, let's get on down and feed these fish. I know they're waiting on us. They're probably hovering right there at that spot.
Yeah, all the animals are waiting on us right now, huh? Cause
yeah,
we just took a slow day this morning. We hadn't done farm chores, so we'll get to it.
That's right. We have a whole line of, we call them dewberries. Some people call them, I think, blackberries. Let me show y'all this whole line of blackberries here before we feed the fish. So there's a whole line of them right here on the pond down. It's like perfect placement. And they're starting to actually bloom now.
Oh, yeah,
you can see some of them are red. It was a blue one down here. One of them should be ready. Because yesterday when me and the boys came down to feed the fish, it was a blue one. Yeah, the dogs like to eat them too. As long as they don't pee on them. Let's see. You see a blue one?
No.
Okay. Yeah, all those plants there, those blooms, those are what we call dewberries. Some people call them blackberries. But I think the technical name is dewberry. Let's see. Some animal might have came and ate it. The animals can tell when they're ready too. But you can see a bunch of little green ones there. Let's see.
They have dewberries, blackberries, and what is it? Is it mulberries? Is the other one? I'm trying to think of the other one.
There's a bunch of
yeah, but the category of them that get confused together.
Yeah.
The 3 of them. I think it's like dewberries, blackberries, and mulberries. And mulberries grow like on a tree or near something about a tree. And then I forget the difference between dewberries and blackberries. I think it might be the sizing and the leaves or something, but I can't really.
It might be about the thorns, because these here have thorns. Right. So if they're, they'll grow all in the woods, and, all in between stuff, and it'll be hard to get to them. But these here, it'll be easy to get them because we kind of leave them, by themselves and cut everything around them.
To me, the dewberries kind of grow wild.
Yeah, they love to grow wild.
Blackberries are more like cultivated.
Y'all see one? Y'all see a black one?
It's not black yet. I see one dark.
Yeah, it's almost dark.
Oh,
almost there. That's the one.
Let me show you this one. I gotta get out.
I think I see it, Ty.
See it right there?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, it's a little bit of blue spots.
Yeah. I don't see the one that we saw yesterday. Some animal must have came and got one of the dogs, probably.
Yeah.
The dogs, they understand what blueberries are too. Come on, Solo. You coming on? Good boy. Where you get it? Oh yeah, he locked up.
Hey,
oh, yeah.
him.
Yeah, he's
biting the tires of the boys' bike.
He's on punishment. Y'all want to throw the fish food out?
Yeah.
Let's see if they're there waiting on us.
I hadn't thrown it in a long time.
Let's see. Are they here?
Shake the bucket.
Shake it. I don't see them. They're not here this morning. Oh yeah, I saw one move when you shook it. Come on, fish. Oh yeah, I see them coming. They coming.
They here.
Yeah, they coming.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all can see that on camera or not, but they're starting to swarm now.
Yeah. See? Nice couple shit.
I'm gonna do this, okay? Yeah, it got that little flaky stuff.
All right, y'all. We got the fish fed with the boys, and my beautiful catfish. They decided not to come up today. My friends. They usually don't come up though, like Megan was saying, when I'm with other people.
Yeah, they come up only for him.
Mm-hmm. I don't know why. I guess they can tell our voice and the shape of our bodies.
They can. They can see you. They know when it's just you.
Oh, so I forgot you, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, good boy. All right, so we won't make y'all wait. We won't let y'all or make y'all wait any longer. Let's talk about how we met. I guess first what we should do is, Megan, you talk about, what was going on in your life right before we met, and then I talk about what was going on in my life right before we met. And if you tell both sides of the story, that's fine. You can talk about both of what was going on in both our lives, right before we met, and then we'll kind of come in right where we met it and what we were doing when we met.
Okay. Well, spoiler alert, I'm going to give y'all this one spoiler, and y'all are going to hate us because this is our answer for everything.
Yeah, for real.
In this season, of our life, it's been obedience. Like, if you want to know in one word how Tim and I met, it was obedience. That's
right.
how we've gotten to where we are. That's how it started, and it's been like steps of faith along the way. Some seasons where Tim was like hearing from the Lord and obedient, and I wasn't, but I submitted, or I was under his covering, so obedience still got us there.
That's right.
And there are seasons.
We're one, so
yeah.
If one of us is obedient and the other one is disobedient.
Well, in areas where I was weak, he was strong. And so, but at the end, and I learned from those things, and now we don't have some of the same struggles that we used to. So at the end of the day, how we got to where we are, how we met in the first place, is beautiful that the Lord started us out, that way. But how we met in the first place was obedience. So just a little bit of my life and my backstory. I didn't meet Tim till I was like, 30, 29, 30. And I did not think that I would be like 25 years old and not married and not have a husband and not be doing ministry and not, I just thought that I should have been so much further along in life than what I was. So when I turned 25, I cried. I cried. That's what I did. And, Tim and I don't celebrate like birthdays and things like that anymore. We just kind of focus every day on what the Lord has given us and try to appreciate that. Instead of having special days, we try to make every day count and every day special. It's just something that the Lord put on our hearts to do. But,
Y'all stay down there, boys.
But before,
y'all can ride up and down the driveway in that section.
We came up doing all that, celebrating birthdays. And so for my birthday, that's what I did. I cried. And
that's when you were 25?
25 years old. And that just kind of goes.
And why did you cry?
Well, just because of the pressure that I thought that my life should have been different at that point. I called it like a quarter life crisis, looking back on it, You know how you have a midlife crisis and you think you're supposed to be this, and that, and you end up going out and buying some sort of fancy car you can't afford, or splurging on something, and, to make yourself feel something or feel better. And it was just like the pressures of the culture.
And the amazing thing is that you were successful according to the culture.
You had a master's degree.
Probably had a good job. job. You had paid off like your student loans by that point, I think. Like you had paid off debt, but you still felt empty.
Yeah. I felt, and I think part of that really was from the Lord, because there was a space between where I wanted to be and where I was. But I was allowing the pressures of the culture, thinking it was because, I wasn't married or things like that, to define who I was, instead of pursuing the Lord and letting Him fulfill that void. And so that's what I began to do, is really just pursue the Lord. Because y'all have heard part of my testimony. I thought, well, I'll just adopt a child and I'll start saving for a house, and I'll try to get what I want my way. But then the Lord asked me to devote that to Him and to give that to Him, and He opened the opportunity where I could do ministry. And just slowly the Lord started to fill that void in my life, not with other things, but with Himself.
So you went from 25 years old crying to like having this realization moment, to where you realized that you needed to devote yourself to the Lord. And then when you started devoting yourself to the Lord, that was around being age 25.
Yeah, that's when I really started to put it. I actually had a ceremony with me and the Lord. I just had communion, and I bought a ring, and I said, Lord, I'm just going to put all these dreams, all these hopes,
and those dreams
give
were
them to you.
Having a family.
And
I think it's important for us to talk about that. When Megan was, a child, she was diagnosed with a disease called sickle cell anemia.
That's right.
And she was sick all the time and all those type of things, and didn't even know if she could have kids. Because she didn't have kids at that time, and she was getting older and wasn't married and didn't have a house,
and older and older.
Didn't have that, that the life that looked like the American dream. Like I said, even though she was highly successful, but was crying, with a master's degree and with all type of potential.
Yeah. I had a good job. I had a master's degree, but I eventually left that job, and I wasn't like teaching or doing anything with my degree or anything like that. I was, the Lord asked me to give those things to Him, and I did. And I just trusted Him with my life, and I began serving at a ministry in Jackson, in the city of Jackson.
Called We Will Go.
Yep.
A lot of you all might know a ministry named, Iris, with Heidi Baker. They're kind of like, it's kind of like the same thing with that, but just instead of being over in Mozambique, it's in America. It's in Jackson, Mississippi. And so that ministry that she was serving, that was kind of partners with that ministry with Iris in Kenya and Mozambique and all of those with Heidi Baker. But go ahead.
Yeah, so the Lord asked me to leave my job and to serve full-time with them for a season, and He was preparing me to live in Jackson and to serve in Jackson and to restore a little house in West Jackson there. And so I just said, okay, Lord, and I just began to go there. It was actually one day where I just gotten out of a church service in the area, and I would drive through the city often and pray, and I was so tired that day, and I did not want to, I just wanted to go back to the ministry base and lay down and take a nap and go to sleep. But the Lord was like, no, I want you to drive and pray. And as soon as I said, okay, Lord, in my heart, literally my steering wheel my arm moved and my steering wheel began to turn a different way than I had ever driven and prayed before. And I ended up, at the house that the Lord wanted me to restore. It was a house that I grew up in. And I was like, okay, I said yes to the Lord. And I was just so overwhelmed even once I said yes. I was like, how am I going to cut the grass? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And the Lord was like, you know what? I didn't ask you to do those things right now. I just asked you to walk and to pray. And I was like, okay, Lord, I'll do that. I can walk and I can pray. And so I began to walk and pray. People began to come with me and walk and pray as I shared the vision that the Lord had given me. Meanwhile, let's cut over to Tim and what the Lord. Yeah, you want me to hold it for a while?
I got it. Yeah.
He's much stronger.
So at that time, while Megan was, starting to devote her life to the Lord, and she had this house that the Lord had told her to restore, and all this grass that the Lord had told her to cut, and this ministry the Lord was telling her to start, and she didn't know, like, man, how am I gonna do all this by myself? While all of that was going on, I was in prison. And me and Megan, we hadn't met at this point, you know, didn't even know anything about each other. But I was in prison, and I was around that time of just getting saved and just starting to follow the Lord. And I was hearing the Lord's voice so strongly. Man, I was hearing it so strongly. I was hearing like audible words. Everything was being confirmed. My prayers were being answered. And the Lord was just speaking to me so strongly. And I got into this season for like the last year of when I was incarcerated. And I was like ready. I was like passionate. I was ready to like go full force for the Lord when I got out. And I was asking the Lord, like, what did he want me to do? Like, give me a word for this season. Like, speak to me. And for that whole entire year. Now, keep it in mind that this year, like everything Megan was just talking about that in her life was going on during that year. And that year before I got out of prison, I was asking the Lord for a word, asking him to speak to me. And he wouldn't say anything else but one word: prepare. And every time I prayed, he went from like speaking so many different things and giving me visions of prayer walking and doing ministry out in the streets of Jackson, Mississippi, is where I was from, where I was born and raised. And I was actually born, in a little country town before my mom and dad got divorced. But anyway, I was raised mostly in Jackson, Mississippi. And the Lord was giving me visions about getting back into the streets and, being like that man who had the legion of demons, and was delivered. And the Lord told him to go back to his own city and to his own people, and tell them about what he had done, what the Lord had done in his life.
Yes. Even on his wall, he had pictures of like Martin Luther King walking through his cities and worshiping, marching and praying.
Yep. And so that was my dream, and that was what the Lord was giving me, the vision he was giving me. And he just kept on saying for that whole year, prepare. And I didn't even know that, the Lord was speaking to Megan, didn't even know Megan about restoring the house and about pretty much the same exact things he was, ministering to me about, which was walking and praying, ministering in the streets and things. And Megan had just started doing those things. And the Lord had just, given her the vision to restore the house and, started ministry in that neighborhood, the area where our city ministry was at. But anyway, so during that time, when the Lord was speaking to me to prepare, a team was coming down, a church team was coming down, a ministry was coming down, and they were ministering to us. And I was letting them know, like, hey, I want to serve the Lord. I want to be fully committed. And actually, one of my spiritual mothers actually kept a note that I gave her, like, 10 years ago? She had it, and she held on to it, and she actually gave it to Megan and I probably about a year ago. And on that note, I wrote down my name and my number, and I said that I'm ready to be used as a vessel of honor for the Lord. And so day one, when I first got out, my mom had it set up to where I had a car when I first got out. And, that ministry team, that lady who gave me that note back or whatever, Miss Cindy, her and her husband, Mr. Bobby, they, were ready to come pick me up to bring me down to the ministry, so I could start serving, like I said I wanted to do. And I told them, I said, you don't have to come pick me up. I can meet you there. I have a car. And they were like, a car? Like a real car? Yeah. Do you have a driver license and all that? My mom, is a blessing because my mom had all that set up. And so I met them down at the ministry, and that day is when I met Megan, because we actually, there was it might have been that first day, I'm not sure, but I think it was that first day when I came down. But let me switch arms again. But what was going on is that they had it was a big ministry, but they had this small little kids church, kids little ministry. It was called Wild Kids, right? And they wanted me to be, one of the youth ministers alongside of that youth ministry. And so that day they were doing like a little skit, and they needed somebody to play God, so I stepped in and played God, and Megan was playing the devil in that skit.
Yeah, I was.
And so literally, when we first met, when she walked up to me, they were giving us, our script on how I could be God and what I was supposed to do, and what Megan was going to do as the distractor.
I was the distractor.
Right, and it was another lady that was playing, like a person that was trying to be distracted. God in that situation was calling. Yeah, and she was trying to distract that person. And so that's literally how we met.
It is.
So that was the first time we met. And, from there, I was just letting everybody know, like, hey, I want to be used by God. Like, what else do y'all have going on? And Megan mentioned, that they were prayer walking. And I was like, prayer walking? Like, that's what the Lord's been speaking to me.
Yeah.
And so I got involved with the prayer walks, and I was super faithful. I didn't miss a prayer walk. There was a lot of other people that were coming in and going, but it was like I was there every single time.
Yeah.
And, the Lord started to just you know, join us together, you know, and build a relationship as friends, you know, on those prayer walks. And we realized that we had the same vision.
Yeah, we
you
did.
know, we had the same exact vision, and the Lord was speaking to us the same exact things. And you know, what happened to that point to take us from friends to like, you know, married.
It was so funny because I just remember, you know, one of my spiritual moms, Miss Amy, she was like, so what are you going to do? Just prayer walk through the city and do ministry together for the rest of your life?
Because I guess at that time, you know, it used to be big teams and things, but it kind of like, as time went by, you know, it seems like from those big teams, it was just Megan and I that was still there prayer walking, you know. So you had this single man and this single woman, you know. I think I was about 24 at the time and Megan was about 30.
Yeah.
And so you had two single people that were serving the Lord together as friends, you know.
Partners.
Right.
Yeah, we just realized that we had the same exact vision. I mean, literally the Lord would give me scriptures and he would give him like the same scriptures or complementary scriptures, you know, and we were just like, okay, like the Lord has put us together. The Lord is like knitting us together. Our hearts were the same, you know, like the Lord says two will become one flesh. And it's like he was already making our hearts one. And when we recognized that, we were like, okay, the Lord desires for us to be together, and we wanted to be together. So it was a pretty quick process because we were friends maybe for almost a year or so. I can't remember, but I think I met him the summer, and then
it couldn't have been a year because we didn't even know each other a year when we got married.
Well, it was less than a year, but we were friends much longer than we were dating. We only dated for like 3 months.
Yeah.
We knew each other, I guess, about a year before we got married, because I met him the summer, and then by that next September of the next year was when we got married.
Yeah. So we dated about 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
And and I wouldn't even call that dating because you know, for 2 of those 3 months we were engaged. For real. And getting ready to be married, you know. So.
Yeah. But yeah, so we were friends for a long time, maybe like, well, I say a long time, but in y'all's estimation, it's probably not a long time.
Years and years.
So we were friends probably about 6 or 7 months.
And we were engaged and dating about 3 months.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we dated maybe like a month or so, and then, you know, we got engaged in May, I think, and then we were married in September.
I guess I should tell you all about our first date, because I did ask her out, you know, on our first date, but we were still friends at that time. And I didn't want to mess up our ministry that we had going on together, because this is before we stopped celebrating holidays, because now we don't celebrate any holidays. We just felt that was something the Lord wanted, you know, wanted us to do, to stay focused on him. But I started to ask her out on February, 14th, on Valentine's Day. And I didn't do it, and it's good I didn't. And I ended up, the movie, like the Jesus movie came out. And I said, this is a good opportunity to like safely ask her out.
Still as friends.
As friends, right.
Friends,
and I said that if the date goes bad, it'll just be two friends.
No,
but if it goes good, we'll say, okay, this is a date. This is the first date.
Yeah.
But if it goes bad, we'll never say like this wasn't a date. We were just friends, just going out, like having dinner together.
Well, that's a date, y'all.
Right.
For all you young ladies out there, you consider that a date.
It ended up going good though, so now we called it our first date.
You stand up for yourself.
And for the men out there, you know, because like I said, I didn't want to mess up, you know, the ministry, like the spiritual things that we had going on together, because I was very, very focused and locked in on, you know, who I married and like what my relationships, you know, because I had committed myself, you know, to being celibate, to not having any sex until I got married. And Megan, she was the same way, you know, had committed herself to those. Neither one of us were perfect, but that was our commitment. You know, we wanted to be celibate, we wanted to wait, you know, keep those treasured things, you know, for our mate, you know, that the Lord gave us. And so I was very strategic. Like if I was dating a girl and I realized like after that first date that, you know, that wasn't gonna be my wife, like I cut it off right there. I didn't just keep on, you know. And like I said, I wasn't perfect, but you know, I think Megan was the same way. Like I said, neither one of us was perfect, but I wanted to go in kind of safely, because I knew that we had a special bond as friends and the ministry that we had going on, like out in the streets of our city. And so I didn't want to like have to cut it off and then, you know, be looking at each other sideways and mess it up. So I said we can go out as friends, and if something happens, you know, then we'll let that happen. But if not, you know, we'll just stay friends. But you know, it was clear. after that first date that we needed to be married, and I was ready to get married right then. Like Megan wanted to wait and have a wedding. I was like, let's just go to the justice of the peace, get married. Listen, because I'm the type of person, like, I'm not even like on all that, you know, worldly stuff. I'm like, I don't need a ring. You might see me not wear a ring now, because it's like, that's just, I'm like, we don't need no judge. We can just stand before God. You open the Bible up. You know what I'm saying? We don't need no paperwork. But Megan was the wiser one at that time. And we waited, had a wedding, honeymoon.
It was a beautiful thing, because the Lord was knitting us together, and he was also using that as an example of himself.
Yeah.
You know, you wonder why the Lord would choose something like marriage to represent himself and the church. And it's a very difficult thing. It's a very difficult relationship. We're not perfect. We fight. We have a lot of issues that we have to work through. Why? Because we're committed to the covenant that we have with Jesus, with the Lord at the end of the day. But it's a holy thing. It's like super holy. Why? Because it represents Jesus himself and our relationship with him, you know. And so at the end of the day, like, why would the Lord choose something like marriage, you know, to represent that? But we got the opportunity to, like, have a call to salvation for the people at our wedding. And, like, for our wedding,
our testimonies.
To be a testimony. Exactly. Tell our testimony. And for our wedding to be a testimony of Jesus and his glory. And that's what I wanted my whole life, you know, was to have a wedding and a marriage that will represent Jesus and his glory and his holiness. And Satan has come after that in every single way that he could. Every vulnerability in me, every weakness in me, he has used that to come after our marriage again and again and again. Same for Tim. Every vulnerability, every weakness in him, Satan has used it to, like, hit us hard, you know. And at the end of the day, we just try to remain faithful, remain under faith. We fall down, but we get back up again, and we say, you know, Lord, forgive us and help us and make us stronger and better together, you know, than we were before.
And that's the thing we always tell people: we didn't get married to be happy. You know, both of us, we got married to be obedient. Happiness comes and goes. You're going to feel good sometimes in marriage, and sometimes you're going to hate your spouse. You're going to be like, who is this person? It's crazy person, you know.
Like, what happened to my husband?
The first night when we got married on our honeymoon, we went down to the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and at the ministry that we were serving at, like, paid for everything and sent us down. It was amazing. And we were in Walmart because they had us a little condo, you know, where you can cook all your own food and things like that. And so we went to Walmart to do groceries. And so this is our first time doing groceries together. And Megan ended up in tears, holding on to the grocery basket in the middle of Walmart. And I'm like, hey, we can talk about this later, like at the house.
No,
and she's like, no, I'm not moving. Like, we're going to talk about this right now. And so I was like, who is this crazy person? Like, she changed all of a sudden when I said I do.
I was like, this is the end of the world. We having an argument. We have to settle this right now, or, like, my emotions can't go on. I can't make it unless we resolve this
right now in the middle of Walmart with everybody watching these two crazy newlyweds. But this also is something that I want to say, because you remember we talked about before we met that Megan was in this season of preparing, and the Lord had me in this season of preparing, and the Lord was giving Megan all these visions of restoring the house. And, you know, and that was actually a house that the ministry house that we sold, you know, in the city, when the Lord told us to sell all our properties and give away the other properties that we didn't sell. But you know, Megan was trying to figure out, like, how am I gonna cut all this grass? How am I gonna, like, be strong enough to, like, restore this house and lay sheetrock and find all these electricians and plumbers and things? And the Lord was preparing me to be that overseer of that. And I didn't even know, you know, I never thought that I was gonna be a pastor, anything like that. And the Lord was preparing me to be that shepherd, to be that overseer of that whole process. And we had $1,000, you know, and we were looking at this renovation, restoration, you know, that we had to do on that house. That was gonna cost, everybody was telling us $40,000 and $50,000. And I came in with just a little bit of wisdom, no training, no experience, and we got it done. You know, we had $1,000 to our name, newlyweds, and that was it. And we ended up being able to, without going into debt, we ended up being able to restore that house, to restore that area, that community. Like, we saw so many demons cast out. We saw so many lives changed, so much salvation. We married at least 3 couples out there, you know, and that was one of the reasons that I ended up getting licensed and ordained as a minister, is because the Lord, you know, I didn't even know at the time, but he told me, get licensed and ordained as a minister. And I didn't even know, like, why. But I went to, my pastor at the time, and I was like, hey, this is what the Lord told me. He said, I need to be licensed and ordained as a minister. And so I ended up getting licensed and ordained, as a minister. And I didn't know that the things the Lord was calling us to do, like I was going to need that, in that season, But yeah, it's just amazing. Like I say, even when we didn't even know each other, the Lord was speaking the same exact thing to us. And I guess, like, a lot of times some people may say, because before I got married, I would always ask married men, like, how do you know when she's the one, And if somebody came and asked me that question now, I would say, do your visions connect? Do your visions connect? Like, is the Lord connecting you with the vision? Like, like if you close your eyes, you didn't know what she looked like. You didn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, do your visions
recognize
connect?
Her?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Because a lot of times we get married for a lot of different reasons. That's why we end up getting divorced. Because we get married for the wrong reasons. The Bible talks about it in Proverbs 31. Like, Proverbs 31 is a beautiful chapter. We talked about that this morning over coffee and donuts.
We did.
That Proverbs 31 is not just written to women. Like, literally, Proverbs 31 is King Lemuel's mama writing him a letter on how he should be, like, as a man, as a king. And the first 5-6 verses of that chapter, it's talking about, like, how he should stretch out his hand for the needy, stand up for those who don't have a voice. And then around verse 10, it starts talking about that virtuous woman. And we all know those scriptures about the Proverbs 31 woman. But it talks about how her value is way more valuable than treasures. It talks about how beauty is passing and charm is deceitful, but a woman who fears the Lord is worthy of praise. I encourage all you men, choose your wife based off Proverbs 31. But don't just choose your wife based off Proverbs 31, because if you choose that woman in Proverbs 31 and you're not the man in Proverbs 31, you won't make it. You won't make it, because Megan is a strong-willed woman. So I have to be an even stronger-willed man, to be able to lead her and my kids. Like, my kids are strong-willed kids.
Oh, yeah.
So I have to be a man after God's own heart, to be able to use discretion and discernment and wisdom as I lead.
And just withstanding the blows of life with integrity. Just being because I think it talks about Proverbs 31, man is not being given to wine, because you have to be at all times alert,
right,
and ready, for the attacks. So Satan is going to come after your family, your whole family, your wife, your children, so just being alert and not in a stupor. But we were talking also about how life, worldliness steals your soul, and you end up in this stupor, like on a hamster wheel, chasing after the cares of the world.
We call it that rat race.
And not pursuing the things of God and the vision that the Lord has for your life. And so you have to be, as a man, ready for the challenges of life and a family, and the responsibility that you hold as a man of God to lead well with patience and kindness and self-control and gentleness. Those are not weak things. It talks about Jesus being meek, having power, but able to subdue it and release it in the right ways. And that's not a easy thing.
I always tell men, if you have to tell your wife that the Bible says you're supposed to submit to me, that means that you're not doing something right. I've never, not one time, ever told Megan, like, the Bible says you need to submit. Have I? Like, that's not how I rock. Like, I just live a life to where people want to follow me, because I'm following Jesus, and I'm locked in on what Jesus, wants me to be doing. And I feel like if I do that as a man, my wife is going to automatically submit to me, because you know why? Because I'm willing to submit to her. Like, we submit unto one another. Sometimes we forget about that scripture where it talks about submitting to one another. Like, I submit to my wife just as much as she submits to me. Sometimes, like, I go to her to ask, like, hey, are you okay with me doing this? I don't just make decisions. Like, I make a decision and I bring it to the table, and then even the boys, like, I ask them, for their insight. Like, when I make a decision, I say, boys, what do y'all feel about this? Megan, what do you feel about this? And a lot of men, a lot of times we hang on to that scripture, and we're bad leaders, but we want people to follow us. It's like, I encourage you, focus on the Lord, get locked in with him. And you won't have to run around like throwing the scriptures at people that say, submit to me. You know, that's what the Bible says. You know, just live that life and you won't even have to talk about it.
Yeah, when we sold our ministry house, Tim Jr. actually made that decision because it was his inheritance, you know. So he made the decision that we should sell it and move to the country, and that was what the Lord was saying, you know. So we were in agreement with him. We already knew that, you know, that was what the Lord was leading us to do, but we allowed
to be involved, right?
To use his faith and to make decisions so he could activate his faith. And he was in line with the Holy Spirit, and that was an amazing and beautiful thing to
at 5 years. Well, no, he was about probably six, 7 years old. He made an adult decision, you know, like spirit-led decision.
He did.
Yeah, and that's how we're trying to train and nurture our kids to be mature far beyond their years.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing is that we'll get to like for the rest of his life, all the fruit, you know, of that decision, he gets to see that as like part of a decision he made.
That's right.
You know, and his whole life to see the fruit of that and to like testify, like, oh man, like Jesus used me, you know, to make this decision for my whole family.
And my mom and my dad trusted me. Like at 5 years, he'd be telling that story the rest of his life. When I was 5 years old, my mom and my daddy let me decide if we sold the house or not. You know, for real. But it's a beautiful thing. We'll walk back down here and go ahead and end. I know the boys want to make sure they're involved. They might have something to say. They did good being down here and staying quiet so that we can focus on telling the story. Yeah, that was a long story. We went on 30 minutes.
I know. Hey, obedience though. That's the key at the end of the day.
Y'all ready to end, boys? Yeah, we'll skip the rocks after we end the video. We gotta skip some rocks, y'all. All right. Let me kneel down. Somebody said we never get Noah on the
Noah's trying to get picked up.
Yeah, for real.
In the video now.
There we go. We got everybody that time. This is how I had to start doing it. I had to start kneeling down. What is this licking on my hand? Get back, Solo.
Solomon.
You want to be in, Solo?
Yeah,
Come on, Solo.
Get in. Come on to the front, Solomon.
Good boy. Solo wants to be in too. There we go. We got the whole family. Everybody but Gideon because he's on punishment. All right, y'all. That was our walk and talk, and we told y'all about how we met. Y'all got to see us feed the fish and just, you know, enjoy this early Sunday morning as a family. But we're going to enjoy it a little bit more off camera. And we end the video here. It's I.A.G. Farms.
It's all about God.
We'll see y'all on the next one.